What is up, ladies and gents? It is your friendly neighborhood BJJ podcast, RAF ESPARZA, coming to you with another great installment of the Bullpen. I hope you're in for a good time because we got a good time ready for you today. All right, a few things before we get to the proceedings. First and foremost, we are like 3 weeks away from the big shows, the biggest week in jiu-jitsu. So thus, we have a lot of topics to get to. I'm very excited about it. I hope that you guys are too. If you are just watching this on the YouTubes and you're watching on either the Grappling Hour or Inside BJJ, do us a solid right over here. Like, subscribe, do all that jazz. It really does help us out. And in a few weeks, when some big shows are coming up, you're going to want to know when those shows are happening. So the more love and support you give us, the bigger and better these shows can be. Ladies and gents, also, go join my Patreon. Check me out, patreon.com/grappling hour. See my interviews 30 days before everybody else. You can also join us on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. Literally, we're everywhere. So it really does help all the support. We do love you guys. Speaking of spreading that love and appreciation, let's go to one of our co-hosts, Tim Freeman. Tim, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. It's great to be back. Finally got the official rule set from CJI. I can't wait to hear your guys' opinion on that. I'm stoked, man. Everything's getting closer and closer, and the action's about to begin. I'm ready. I'm pumped. Let's go.
I feel like you think like I think, which is scary, by the way. I feel like you're starting to see a pickup in the reactions from the athletes themselves. Like right now, things are a little bit more serious for them than I think they were when it was all theoretical 3 months ago.
Yeah, we're starting to actually get some answers on like, how are these guys going to approach this? What exactly are they going to do? What does this particular person think about it? Or how are they going to handle it? We're starting to figure that stuff out. So it's exciting. Details, finally.
Indeed, indeed. And in response to this question right here, which says Jake's back. Well, no. And I mean, he was in the pre-crawl. That's just opening credits. I'm too lazy to change. And we wish him well, obviously. But no, if Jake did return and he's pulled a face off, perhaps an upgrade, because he wouldn't just be Jake Watson. He would be handsome KEVIN Sherrill, who is joining us once again on the show. Kevin, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing phenomenal, and I am here to take everything Jake's ever worked for.
Oh, no. See, this is why we shouldn't really put it up into the group right now. I did see a note here. This is from BMAC. It says, is Jake dead? I mean, no. To my knowledge, I believe he's still fine. You know what it is? People still leave a trail of crumbs to their social media. So, no, as long as there's still a delivery of Once Upon a Coconut, it is perfectly fine to assume that Jake Watson is alive and just fine. And it says, oh, I see this, the second most handsome Kevin. So who is the first? I can't figure this out. Who is supposed to be the first handsome Kevin here?
They haven't found him yet. They keep alluding to this mysterious character, but
I'm glad that
I've yet to see it.
They wrote into the script, they're like, must find a more handsome. Like they have a casting couch out that way. So let's start with this. We'll start before we get to the board. We'll get to the biggest news, of course, which is that, ladies and gents, you are now looking at your broadcast team that will be reporting to you live all week during the Craig Jones Invitational and ADCC. We have Kevin, who is going to be joining us live in Vegas, myself, Tim, Kevin, we are your broadcast crew. And the details of that broadcast will be kind of, broken up over the next 3 weeks or so. But Kevin, we welcome you to the team. We're very happy and appreciative that you will be joining us on this adventure.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast, man.
Do you have any expectations? Because I should kind of squash all of those while I can. I just want to make sure that you know exactly what kind of dictatorship I run when we do these things.
I have the expectation that you were talking about things becoming more real. Craig Jones Invitational has been largely like 90% meme all the way in the lead up to this. I'm very excited to get there, have it become real, official, a big thing, and then do our best to turn it back into a ridiculous meme.
Yeah, I have to say, there is a meme community that's just propping up the Craig Jones Invitational. And you're right, we're going to see the reality of it in a short amount of time. I should point this out. BMAC did say James' new name is Once Upon a Coconut.
I think he meant Jake there.
I think so too. And listen, guys, hold on. Everybody come in real close. Listen, we already had one president that had to step down. And I'm not suggesting that our commish step down, but should he not fulfill the duties, we do need to have plans in place here, because the cognitive, I'm just saying, guys,
he's getting senile. BMAC senile. You heard it first on the bullpen.
Listen, it's that we went from an unfortunateness of seeing the dementia Olympics happening in a debate form a few weeks ago to now being like, oh, that's changed. Okay, things are very weird. So we'll do our best to kind of keep you out of that world for the election. But I will say this. I'm just saying, let's have a plan in place, because as it is, we really don't. And we don't know who becomes new BMAC if BMAC is not able to fulfill his duties. Is it Keelan? Is it Egghead? Oh shit, is it TJ? Don't know. And it said, oh no, you butchered the joke. No, I you know what? I venture to say we improved upon it. It was a nice suggestion. I looked at it. I said, nah, we're going to go to the next one. So, all right. Speaking of which, why don't we go to our actual topics here? And it says, bullpen, not coconut, you knucklehead. And it says the PGF doesn't have a 25th Amendment. If there was going to be one person to write out the Constitution for the PGF, it is going to be Egghead. So we'll see that he is both the executive and the legislative branch. So very excited for that. Gents, let's go to the board and see what we have as the topics on hand for this week. So we'll start off here. And speaking of our commish, he's looking good up top over that way. But I want to bring this up, which is, listen, BMAC did a great investigation as to the rule set for the Craig Jones Invitational. And we talk about it going from theoretical to real in just 3 weeks. But in doing so, he did an outline of those rules. I'm going to start with you, Tim. You proposed this one. Is this good? Is it bad? And will it be impactful to the overall sport?
Well, I don't know if it's good or bad yet. It's hard for me to have a direct opinion on it. I definitely think it's interesting. And if it's something that the athletes like and it's friendly to the viewers, then we might see a big wave in rule set changes. And you might see more rounds show up. You might not. I'm not really certain. I've never really watched an event that had a rule set like this with the rounds and then the addition of the pit wall. It's like, man, it's kind of tricky. There's a lot of factors at play. I'm definitely interested in it. I think it's good overall. I think they're using this almost as a novelty in the beginning to get more people on it, and it's quite different than ADCC. So they've given themselves a path out if they don't ever want to feel like, hey, we're head-to-head competitors. They actually have another format, and they can kind of stand on that. But outside of that, I don't know if it changes anything because I don't know if any of these guys are ready for it. I think that's the bigger question. Or like, yeah, it'll change things if these guys are ready, but if they're not ready, I guess whoever's the best grappler is going to come out. So,
I'll ask you this, Kevin, would you be ready for a rule set like this? Like if we went to PGF and a month before BMAX said, hey, guess what? JKs, y'all in a pit and it's 10-9s.
I would be ready for a rule set like this. There's no stall calls, so that right there, I'm set up for success. I'm actually, the thing I'm most excited about for CJI was initially the $1 million, raising the pay level for your average competitor. I thought it would trickle down and eventually, show that this can be a realistic thing for us to do. But now it seems like the pit is becoming more and more common, and that may be the future. And I'm ready for that yesterday, man. Let's start having Nagas in pits. Every jiu-jitsu gym in the world should have a pit in it.
You mentioned that for Naga, and I will tell you this. There is a part of me that would like to see them hauling that shit and getting really mad when they have to break it down. Like, oh, God, man. City to city. How many corners do we have now? Because you know what? The thing is, for Naga, it would just be one giant outer laying to the 15 mats on the inside. So if you're on the inside, business as usual. Right. But if you're on one of the edges, you're like, I got mat 12. God damn it. I get the edges, and this is a heel hook tournament.
Yeah.
I do love this. And it says, King of the Stalls, throw that flag, BMAC. So here's the good news. I don't have plans in place to call stall calls on you, but I will be prepared with a challenge flag in my handkerchief pocket in my suit when we get together. I just want to point this out. So now that you're going into this new world, I feel like you get a clean slate. Like, I feel like we can't necessarily go to stall calls, because what you did better than most people did in this regard is you made a video that I go, this is funnier than any joke somebody's going to put in the comment section. So it was a good way of owning it. And I think in the future, when we look back at good moments in PR for the sport, or especially for PGF, you will have succeeded in that realm, sir. So kudos to you. I do want to say this, though. Just my interpretation, good, bad, impactful. I just keep telling people this, because whenever we talk about sustainability or we talk about how the effects of the rules are going to be playing out, we don't know shit. And that's perfectly fine. I know it is odd for people to admit every once in a while that we don't know something, but we don't know how these rules are going to play out. It might be wonderful. It might be terrible, but I do like the ambition of it. I am very interested to see what a 10-9 situation does for grapplers, because we're so used to sub-only rules or very stringent ADCC rules that keep you a little bit more confined in certain regards. And we've seen be abused. We have seen those forehead wrestling matches. So at the very least, here it breaks up the action so that we're not all staring at each other like, is this going to end? Like, this might go on for a long time, right? Like, we might be here for a minute. It sounded good in theory, because we've had those matches, and those sometimes are the championship matches. And it's just because you have two people who are so evenly matched that when you really get down to the last aspect of it, of course it's going to be close. So I think we wait to see it play out. And the other question is, and I'll kind of pose this to the group, because there are some new individuals making their way in, and I would never call anybody a dunkable, but if you're JT Torres or somebody who's been to the dance and won before, do you see some of these people now as the possibility of, well, they might be a dunkable to me? Because I think some of these people who have come in aren't bad grapplers at all, but I'm not world class like they are. Do you think that is occurring on some level for some of these top tier athletes? I'll start with you, Kevin.
I think the gap between the top guy in the rule set for ADCC and the last guy in the rule set or in the bracket is a lot larger than previously expected. It used to be the grind of ADCC was getting kind of terrifying if you look at how competitive those matches are, how elite the level is from the first match to the last. And I think CJI CJI kind of alleviated a lot of that depth in there. And honestly, I think we are going to see some people style a little bit. I think some guys are going to open up, try and get the sub and get off the mat quickly. And I think those opportunities exist.
Thank you for that. Tim, your thoughts?
That's not a bad way to look at it. And it might even make it more exciting. You know what I mean? In a way, if there's a little less parity. Although it could be a mistake to overlook some of these guys. I know if it's a guy that's in there that you have a good record against, then that's a different story. You probably feel pretty confident in taking that person on. But if it's somebody that's hungry and they're on the come up and they just haven't gotten their shot yet, and now they got their shot, that's a dangerous athlete right there. You know, at a time there was a young JT Torres who was dangerous and a little more unknown. So for sure, it's a tricky situation. It piques my interest now, though, to actually see all these other guys take a run at it. And you almost have this situation where it's like, hey, you got these outsiders now, and they're going to take a run at these other guys who are a lot more established and predicted to win, former champions, that kind of thing. So definitely going to make for an interesting night.
I do love the fact that you were referring to a time when, yes, JT Torres wasn't a double champ yet. He was just some lowly, silver medalist? Blah. Boring.
That's nothing.
Anybody can do that. All I was thinking, though, was, sure, we want to say the nice things where it's like, don't overlook this person. Don't overlook this person. But you know how competitive these guys are. You know that there has to be at least 3 or 4 of those champion guys who are looking at some of these additions to the roster and going like, yup, please let me get them first or second. Like, let me make it to those semis. Let me make it to that medal round. Because then I get that sweet, sweet cash of 2,003. Shit, dude. What's wrong with us? Give us $3,000 to take third place. And the fact that you might lose a limb because of it.
You get $37,000 in prestige, though.
I do hope that Mo gives them Mo bucks so that they can trade that in for an undisclosed favor at the end. It's just
the Flow Grappling gift shop. Great idea, Raph.
The Flow Grappling gift shop. You get a shirt that says Flow Zone on it.
Flow on it. They're all decked out head to toe in Flow Zone gear.
I have to say this, and again, whatever. I once told my wife, I was like, oh, they call this the Flow Zone. And she goes, I'm sorry, what now? And I go, that's what they call it. And she goes, are you fucking with me? Did you make up that name? You would make up names for things. And I go, no, babe, this is completely void of me. It is for real. And then she saw the logo that said Flow Zone and she got up out of the room. She's like, fuck this. I can't. So just saying. I see this from you. Hey, players. Hey, playa, back to you. Winterstick83. We appreciate you. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, all that sort of stuff. All right. I think that's a good segue to they don't make any money to a question that was proposed that made me laugh because I didn't know that it necessarily had something that I was thinking about recently. But yeah, I think it stands to ask the question. We've been asking, what are the people who are involved in Craig Jones Invitational going to do with the $1 million? But what we haven't asked is those people who are fighting for the lowly price of $10,000 to win at ADCC. So it was proposed here on our scratch sheet to ask this question: what would ADCC competitors do with $1 million? Tim, what would they do?
Yeah. Too bad, so sad. We'll never know what they would do. Actually, that's the correct answer. Sorry. No, hey, I'm a big fan of all you guys. Don't get all mad when you see me. What I'm saying is I would be pretty pissed off if I was one of those dudes in ADCC and the guy that wins CJI is somebody that I've beaten in the past or could be or had several matches against. That would really burn me up. That would make me feel like perhaps I made the wrong decision. Outside of that, $1 million, probably what I would do is hire a PR firm to guarantee that I would be in CJI 2025 with a shot at another $1 million. That's probably what I would do if I was one of those ADCC athletes. So.
I'd like to point this out, Tim, because you did propose this question. And when you get set up and I literally serve it up to you, you're like, well, I don't know. They'll never know. And I go, motherfucker, dude, you proposed
That's
this
not my
goddamn
question. That one wasn't mine.
No, but you literally set it up for me to go, like, just set it up for you and say, Tim, what would they do with $1 million? Like, they'll never know. And I go, this was the longest, like, knock joke setup that we could have come up with. And I, of course, have to do the moderator thing and go, I don't know. How far are they? Like, whatever the refrain is that they have to have. Kevin, what do you think these hungry, juicy ADCC competitors would do with that $1 million if somehow they were able to find a genie, reverse course, challenge one of these people, or do anything of the like?
Well, clearly they don't have to worry about it because they have no financial concerns whatsoever because they have chosen ADCC, the most prestigious event they could hope for, and are therefore set financially for life. But let's entertain the hypothetical world where these athletes do actually need to eat food for a living, eat food and make a living. Theoretically, you could visit, 25 million laundromats across the country and open up pedagos in all of them and invite Flo, who are your new friends, as you have acquired your Flo gift shop merchandise, and have them come do a series of documentaries around these various locations. You could also retire from jiu-jitsu forever, because you have reached the peak of the sport by winning ADCC. Or you could get all of Gordon's DVDs except for 2 or 3. Almost the whole collection for that $1 million.
So I think you guys are overlooking perhaps the most obvious answer to this question. I think what you have to do if you are an ADCC competitor who wins, I know that we've talked a little bit about the possibility of challenging the winners, sort of what Fionn was proposing, which is, well, why doesn't the ADCC champion challenge me and we can make more money off a super fight? That's a lot of work. I think these are some people who can fall for some crypto scams. Now, listen, I'm not saying these athletes are dumb. Not everybody who falls for a crypto scheme is dumb per se, but I would encourage you to, I don't know, maybe set up like a honey trap, like a bear, and try to get that money out of them, because it's just, I feel like that's less work than having to go through the idea of like, well, now I got to get steroids. Now I got to get as big as this other person. No, none of that. Trick them for the money. Don't even challenge them. I feel like you can trick some of these people. On a good day, I think you could potentially trick, let's just pick somebody out of a hat here, Owen O'Flanagan. I think you could trick him out of some of his money. I think what you do is you bait him with a little bit of like protein and you put a trail of that and he comes through in like a Hanna-Barbera cartoon, just like nom, 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 nom. And then you ask him like an important question about a technique. He gets his microphone like this, and then you just steal the money that's underneath there. Or you take a cell phone, which, by the way, is connected to all the bank accounts in the world at this point. So if you steal a cell phone, you essentially have their $1 million. I'm not telling you how to commit crime. I'm just saying it's a possibility.
Get him to open up an Irish pub. You could do that. Failed one.
I think it's funny that you picked like one of the sharper athletes, whereas like we know about half that bracket would struggle to like read any book that doesn't have enough pictures.
I want to be honest with you. I picked the one that knows I would say something shitty about him on our show. Like, I don't think his feelings get hurt. I would say a fourth of these people, potentially. I also know who we're talking about in the future on this show. So I didn't want to burn all my jokes on just one person this week. But I would say Owen O'Flanagan, I think, can be tricked. And you guys, stop thinking small. To get their $1 million, don't challenge them to a match. Invite them to become a partner in something that will never come to fruition. and watch yourself make more money than you would in any jiu-jitsu match. White collar crime. It's a real thing. Oh God. Listen, Egghead, can I just tell you this? You do not become younger or more aware by pointing out the fact that a reference might be lost upon the youth. Have you ever just figured this one thing, which is that sometimes this is being written off as a for-profit education system? Like, we get our expenses by saying that we are teaching the youth. We are essentially PBS here. Hanna-Barbera. You, me, and Tim are the only, and good Lord, only guys who got that reference, which I liked. Thank you. I appreciate that. And look at this. Wallow J. Jake is looking handsome. You know, it's very strange how every one of these people was like, you know what? I know how they're going to get rid of Jake. They're going to get Kevin. And we're just going to keep doing that joke. So, all right. This is the real thing that I think that Egghead did put in, which is they'd get more acai, which, I mean, I think they'd get the better version. Don't forget, Craig said that he used to get just the really shitty Mexican steroids, which was always my joke until he said it out loud. And he goes, yeah, I really did get the bad supplements. Womp womp. Now I know what I'm doing. Now he gets the good Mexican supplements. Guys, let's go to our next topic, which is as follows. This is something that I found very interesting while we're talking about Craig Jones Invitational athletes. Luke Rockhold is now trashing ADCC. And I guess it begs the question, why? Tim, I'm going to start with you. What exactly was he saying about ADCC? And how can you trash something that has already been clowned through memes, in some ways almost unnecessarily?
Yeah, you know, I don't know. It's probably easy to do, so he did it, and it was funny. Obviously, he has a strong opinion about it. Rockhold's a great grappler. He's no joke. He's a great fighter, terrific grappler. He's got good wrestling, good jiu-jitsu. He good defense. He's a tough guy, good stand-up. So, you know, he's feeling good. He probably is trying to bring some eyeballs to him and what he's doing in CJI. And I think he's good friends with Craig. So maybe he just feels a little extra salty about it. Maybe he might know more information than we know. He might know more backstory. So he might feel like he has a little more skin in the game. That would be my guess. But you know, I don't know if I quite agree with him that they're like watering it down or making it worse. But I do agree that it's high time these guys get paid. I think that's an easy point to make. But yeah, he's got strong feelings about it, man. And I don't want to say anything. We've trashed a bunch of people already. I just want to be super chill with Luke. So it's all good, Luke.
Got it. You don't want to fight Luke. You draw the line.
Not really.
Kevin, okay. Maybe you're the person to go to for this one in particular. Luke Rockhold, I mean, at his peak, was a Versace model. You are handsome Kevin Sherrill. Maybe you speak a language that he understands that maybe we don't. But, like, what is he trying to say here, and what do you think he might be trying to articulate?
Well, you have that right. I am the Costco brand Luke Rockhold for sure.
Kirkland.
And I think, yep. And I think that speaks to the heart of the disconnect between Luke Rockhold and his opinions on CJI. That man's only ever dealt with the premier brand. We talked about Versace, the UFC. He has only ever gone to the best. I think when he sees the dollar signs associated with CJI and the dollar signs associated with ADCC, he is simply calling ADCC broke. And Luke Rockhold is not a fan of broke. As we have seen throughout the course of his career, he's very consistent. If you're not burning the purses that you don't sell, Luke Rockhold is not a fan of you. Like the cream of the crop.
Well, you know, I want to point this out because I don't know if there's money on the table here for you, but Edgar Llamas says, I will only make handsome rash guards for Kevin. That's impressive. Has he made a handsome rash guard for you?
Yeah, the handsome kit is brought to you by Eager Ones, as well as the Not Bad kit. My team, Not Bad Combat, So all my competitors, we're all rocking Eager ones, man. If you guys haven't worked with them, like this, there's no money in this for me, but Edgar's been nothing but excellent to work with. Fantastic.
Well, that's wonderful. And I'm glad that you are giving away free promos. We have a lot to go over what you can learn to do on these shows.
Edgar, I'm going to hit you up, dog. I know you, so we'll talk.
Yeah, I know. We love you, Edgar. It's just, you know what I mean? Like,
we're trying to get some Vegas money. Let's go, Edgar.
You know what I mean? Like, everybody's talking about $1 million for athletes, and it's like, please, sir, can I have some money? Oh, please, it'd be nice if we could eat. Oh, I love corn and reporting on these people.
Jiu-jitsu guys, we're not financially literate, man.
It's not even financially literate. It's just, you know, it's always like a very fun thing when you're reporting on it and you go, okay, so what is the budget? Did you think about this part? No? Okay, A+. We're going to move on. Let's go to our next topic. And I think this is interesting because, yes, I would say this, just to kind of put the button on it. Actually, let me stay on this. The only thing I want to add to this whole Luke Rockhold part of critiquing it, and I think, Tim, you mentioned it, maybe he's just doing Craig a solid here. I'm under the guise of, I have my qualms with ADCC, but it is weird to get that feedback that it's watering down the sport, because for years it was the one that wasn't watering down the sport. So now that we're at this, perhaps they learn what any good comedian learns, which is when people start shitting on you, it basically means that you've made it. What do I mean by that? I mean, when you're essentially becoming made fun of for having delivery that says, what's the deal with? Well, guess what, Jerry Seinfeld? That means you're making a lot of money. So at this point, it comes with the recognition of being that big, which is they're going to have all eyes on you. And maybe they're putting you down to elevate Craig Jones Invitational. Having said that, I don't know that ADCC waters down the sport. What you might mean is the athletes have gamified it in a way where they need to win, and maybe that doesn't make it exciting. But if you offer incentive to the athletes, then watch that gamification become way less of an issue. So I'm intrigued to see if the theory they've presented with this $1 million prize results in people doing absurd things. So that is something that I did want to go ahead and put out that way. And it says, you guys have my number, LOL, of course. And it says ad revenue loss rate. That's what I'm talking about, Kevin. You don't understand. Like, legitimately.
We're going to get that one back
here. I was about to say, I was like, well, you know what? Delete now. Okay. Ad revenue. Thank you for that one, Wallow J. Let's go to our next topic now that I got that small little point I wanted to make in. Okay. Guys, get this. Luke Rockhold and the Tackett brothers built a wall. No, not that one. I mean, hopefully not that one. They're actually now at the point where I think we're looking at this. Oh, I think we switched the topics. My apologies. These are out of order. So yes, this actually does go to both of them because there is pit submission this week. But let's show you the photo that would have gone with that one if I wasn't on crack cocaine. Look at that. That's a wall.
Oh, yeah.
And then we have those two topics switched. All right, let's just get to the bottom of this. Let's go first with Luke Rockhold building a wall since we were just off of this. So it looks like, yes, the Tackett brothers and Luke Rockhold are training with a wall. And it's good to see them getting in those practice rounds because as of right now, very few people are familiar with how to grapple in that heightened state. So I'm going to ask you this. Let's first talk about the aspect of competing with a wall, but then what benefits do you think these individuals may have, if any, coming into that competition? I'm going to start with you, Kevin. Do you think it is important to be training with that, even as ghetto as it might be?
I think having a wall in your gym is a massive advantage. There's something that we, in the MMA world, had to recognize and realize, which is like the existence of the cage isn't just like the ropes in boxing. The cage is a tool. Something you're constantly using from the top position is the existence of the floor, and you're using it as leverage to press off against. I think if you've got a wall in your gym that can mimic the pit, you're going to have a massive advantage every time you move even slightly close to that wall. You're going to have a massive advantage. I didn't know the pit was this easy to build at home, but you know what? I think my house is going to have a pit. I think the local gym's going to have a pit. I think the dog park my dog goes to is going to have a pit. We are now training full-time round the clock for the pit series.
I do love the fact that you now are at the point where you're thinking like, what doesn't have a pit? I think, you know what? Everything's going to have a pit. My fire pit's going to have a pit. Everything's going to have a pit at this point. I find it so interesting that ingenuity was out and about. Tim, your thoughts on that? Are you building a pit in your academy now? And if not, what's the holdup, dude?
I'm trying to figure out exactly how I would do it. I think I could do it by leaning the mats up under a structure that was up against a straight wall. You just need an angled frame. I think you could pull it off. The question is who's going to learn what the quickest? The guys that come in with a real solid plan off that pit obviously are going to do better than the ones that don't. But then again, it might not even come into play at all. But I definitely would be incorporating the pit, especially if I was considering or trying to get into these big submission fights at the higher level, because I think we're probably going to see more of this. So it's probably worth your time to get some practice in on it. I think Kevin makes a great point. The cage wall, the fence in MMA is a huge wall wrestling's huge. It's a giant part of it that used to not really exist very much. Guys weren't even training it. And the ones that were had a huge advantage. So we'll probably see a similar trajectory, although information spreads a lot faster now. So I'm assuming we're going to see a lot more pit Instagram photos coming up probably in the next week or so.
Understood. So I want to say this because I want to spend my time on the clock kind of evaluating this pit, and walk with me here because I clearly messed up the photo there. So as you notice, though, I did fix it. Look at that. Fixed it in a short amount of time. But I actually wanted to put a proposal here, which is who has the better pit? Now, look, the one that we are looking at right over this way, this is Luke Rockhold's pit. And I have to tell you, if we're basing that versus the one that you could see all the way over on that side with the tackets, first of all, look at what they're already doing with the tackets. The tackets are looking to do what's called like a pro wrestling summerside flip. Like he's literally going through, and this is a pinning predicament, which I find absurd. So they're already planning absurd nonsense. So I have to give them the edge because look at the one like right over this way. This way right here, if you're looking at it, I don't see too much ingenuity from Luke Rockhold's pit. Kind of looks like an afterthought, if you ask me. So there are levels to this. And apparently, as you know, Tim was asking just a few seconds ago, he's like, well, how hard can it be to make a pit? It sounds like it'd be difficult. No, if you have Luke Rockhold's format, not only does it have something there that you can recreate, but I think if you go on the Luke Rockhold one, I think you might just fall into that section. Like, I don't think there's any assurance that there's anything going to prop you up. There's not gym bags underneath it we know of. I think you're just going straight into the underpass of the boxing.
I know what that is. That is a church platform right there. That dude is training at a church somewhere. That's not a pit. That's a platform at a church, dog. Come on. Look at that. That's the step up. It's right there.
You know what this is? This is essentially the minimum amount of baby proofing a house before you bring a child home. Like it's just like just throw the mats on top of it. Otherwise they electrocute themselves. Just I don't know, man. Let these kids roam wherever they want. I'm intrigued to see how this all plays out, but I do love the idea that they are training for it. And I have to say, I wonder if the other, 28 or so participants are going to be doing this as well, if they've set it up in their gyms. Because the reason I already included one is Andy Varela doesn't need more reps in a pit. If you look at what he does at 10th Planet, at his gym, he's already using the walls as is. So he's set. I think he's in a good place. I'm just curious to know if other people are using this ingenuity. But props to both Luke Rockhold and the Tackett brothers, because when I sent this to a few of my friends, I was like, what do you think about this? They go, this is genius. Good for them.
Yeah.
Thank you, Wallow J, an educated individual. Tackett is going for that sunset flip. See, this is how you know you've got real pro wrestling fans. These are students of the game. Smart Wallow J. Makes me want to bring him on too. So anyway, that's what we got going on. Let's go to our next topic, which will have the wrong photo, but we'll see if I can get that amended here in a second. The question or the prompt here is we should be previewing the upcoming Pit Submission Series. Now, since this is going to be taking place over in the Nashville, we will go to our correspondent who is closest that way. Tim, tell us a little bit about what we can expect at Pit Submission Series 7.
Well, I believe Pit Submission Series 7 is embedded in Karate Combat, the same event. It's like the Subway and the Chevron. You know what I mean? Kind of like that's where jiu-jitsu is now. So don't get too high-minded, guys. You're the Subway and the Chevron. But no, it looks like a kind of a cool card. Aljamain Sterling is competing on the card. That's what caught my eye. It'd be interesting to see him in this format. Alexander Romanov is a UFC guy. You know, he's been out there a lot. Roosevelt Souza, he's another guy we've heard a lot about. Patrick Gaudio just fought Gordon Ryan not too long ago. And then this Diego Hamalo is a dude who he hasn't been active the last couple years, but I'd say in the 20 teens, he was very active. He has a very big reputation for being rough. Like his side control escape is basically he elbows you and knees you all over your body until he makes space and gets out. That's kind of like his game, what he's known for. So I think that'll make for an interesting matchup. But more than that, I believe, if I'm not wrong, the format of this is going to have that recessed or that reclined wall, that angled wall. And this is a good opportunity for me to see this live and see how it plays out, kind of get some more feedback in terms of like, what are the types of techniques that we might actually see. We know we've seen Craig Jones shoot a triangle off that wall. We have some footage of that stuff already, but as we get closer to it, I think there's going to be a lot more eyeballs on it. So stoked for it. I can't wait to be there.
Are you going to try and storm the Capitol and make your way inside the pit? Like, are you going to try and get some reps in there and figure out what it feels like firsthand?
Yeah, I am, but I'm not just going to run in there crazy. I need someone to distract President Awesome first, like get in his face, be like, "Hey man, show me some stuff" or something. Maybe run a fake attack, send like one of my students out there first, and then he'll go, while they're all choking him, you'll see me on the side like trying to jump triangles off the pit wall.
Nah, dude, you're thinking this all wrong. I think the real strategy, because we know she's going, is to get Hawk 2 girl, send her in as a decoy. Like literally be like, oh my God, I love all that you do. You're so great and a great addition to society. Anyway, go over that way, talk to him. I'm just going to go see if I can stooges around this pit and what kind of give it has so I can report back to my people, because that's the closest any of us are going to get to the pit. So I'm just saying that. Kevin, I want you to kind of tell me, are you familiar with JJ Wilson by chance?
Not actually.
Okay, let me tell you a little bit about JJ Wilson. JJ Wilson is a Bellator fighter now, I believe, in the PFL. I'm not sure exactly where he falls on that line, but excellent grappler, very solid. So him versus Aljamain Sterling is a very fun match to me. And I don't know what you feel whenever you see your homies get a match that you go, wait, how did that come? You know what? I don't even care. Great. Good for him. That's how I felt with him. And he's an excellent fighter, but getting somebody with Aljo's notoriety is very, very cool. So I would say that. Did any of that catch your attention from what you saw on the Pit Submission Series? Or what are you looking forward to seeing the result of this one?
I'm very interested to see how Aljamain Sterling responds after his viral rant. He had that viral rant of like, if I was stalling, what was he doing against guard pullers and butt scooters? To which the jiu-jitsu community like kind of unanimously replied, like, this is jiu-jitsu. Like, if the guy is giving you the free takedown, engage. And that's not to knock Aljamain Sterling. He's a phenomenal MMA fighter. It's the classic clash of styles and philosophies. I am supremely interested to see if JJ Wilson pulls guard, which sounds like he's a fighter. He's probably not going to pull guard. Did Aljamain Sterling make the adjustment by just asking for an opponent that's not going to pull guard? Or has Aljamain heard the jiu-jitsu community and said, all right, I accept your challenge, and he's going to go out there and put work in? We know he's capable of it. If you're that athletic, you're that dedicated, you're that disciplined, there's nothing you can't pick up. It would be nice to see. I'm very curious to see what adjustments he makes.
You know, there's one thing to consider here, and I believe everybody has some familiarity with Justin Flores, J-Flow, who works out of Keenan Cornelius's gym at Legion. He has worked a lot with JJ, and JJ, in one of his most recent fights, we did a tape study together. So we watched his fight together, and he hit this really sick judo throw. So he has some stand up, and I just remembered looking at him while we were watching it and saying, like, fuck you, dude. Like, that was really clean. And that's really annoying. And he goes, what are you talking about, man? Isn't it good for me? Like, aren't you happy for me? And I'm like, I'm happy you won the fight, but don't make the rest of us look like shit, because it looked like he was falling, and then he's not falling, and then suddenly he's on top. And I think, to your point, Kevin, one thing that's very interesting about JJ, if he's willing to engage on the stand-up, A+. But if he doesn't, he's got a very good guard, and it's a very active guard. So if the criticism was, oh, Aljo doesn't engage, he doesn't do this. Well, now you get somebody who's a fighter who's used to standing up and having to bring somebody down to get that win. And now I'm interested to see if he has the right dance partner to either show his skill or to get that challenge that you go, oh, see, now be careful what you wish for, because JJ is somebody who maybe not everybody knows, but I think is a very valid competitor for him to go against. So that's why I was so stoked for it. And JJ, my apologies that I put the wrong photo in the wrong place. It was, you know what I mean? Like, I guess I should just attribute it to CTE or something. I don't know what it is. Maybe my cognition's going, and I do have very, very clear statements here that there is no line of succession. Like, the show ends and dies with me. Like, as soon as I'm dead, the show doesn't exist anymore. So enjoy it while you can, kids. As long as this still stays intact, we still have a show. So there is that. With that being said, let's go to the next topic. All right, next topic is this. Some good news happened over the weekend. Turns out, oh, I see what's happening here. I still had that one there. Yep, I did it right. Turns out there was some good news over the weekend. Apparently, yes, the athletic commissions got their shit together and decided that clock be damned. 12 to 6 elbows. Yeah, I guess they're all right now. Now, granted, that's a pretty good thing for the future of our sport, especially if you're John Jones and you want an unblemished record. So I guess the question is, now what? Tim, I'm going to go to you first here. I'm going to ask, not only now what, but are we looking at the possibility of John Jones getting a clean record? I'm sorry, a unbeaten record.
He's going to get that loss expunged. Interesting. You know, listen, have these commission guys seen the videos of these dudes breaking cement blocks with their elbows? They might change their mind on this rule and put it back. This has been the one weird quirk in the rule set that has existed for a really long time, and we've known that it should be taken out, and it's like ridiculous. There's way more dangerous things. I'm not saying it's not dangerous, but there's a lot more dangerous things that can happen to you in a mixed martial arts fight than that. So it's about time. I'm happy to see that, to the chagrin of everybody who claims, like, if you try to take me down, I'd just spike elbow you. Like, okay, now we're going to see. Outside of that, I don't know. Is this like one of those situations where the government's like, hey, man, if you were selling pot and you're in jail, we're going to let you out because it's not a big deal anymore? Is that what it is? They're going to be like, hey, you hit somebody with a 12-6 elbow and we all jumped on your case and gave you an L or a no contest, but now we can see where we were wrong. We're going to go ahead and give that back to you. And then how does Hamill feel if that happens? Like, he's kind of holding on to that. He's got like a victory over John Jones. Like, I'd run that one to the grave, dude. So I don't know. If I was John Jones, I would definitely try to get that one back, though. If you can't get a rematch, you get that. Next best thing.
Interesting. John Jones would want to spend more time in court. What a different headline. Kevin, I'm going to go to you now. What do you think this means for the implications of the sport? Is this going to change things? You also serve as a coach for a number of MMA fighters. So I'm intrigued to hear what your thoughts on this whole melee is.
I have several MMA fighters that I coach, one of whom is 5-0 with 2 knockouts by elbow. That man, Reese Baby Goose Watkins, is dancing in the streets right now.
You get an elbow.
He's like, I'm just going crazy. Yeah, I think he sells Suffer Not the Grappler to Live merchandise, so we're all in trouble. Yeah, as far as John Jones getting his record expunged, I hope he does. I hope he moves to 27-0, and then there's only 15 other things he needs to be exonerated before. I think it's a great rule change. It only took 20 years. It only took 20 years of us all knowing unanimously that this should be overturned and this was silly.
Here's my thought, and I don't know that we all are on the same page on this. Like, I think what ends up happening is we as spectators perhaps overthink this or think of it for the benefit of the fighters. Whereas a majority of fighters are just like, hey man, I signed up for this. I know what I'm into. I know what I'm signing up for. And so they don't give a shit. It's just taking away one of their weapons. And then a weird sort of like, I don't remember which one today because someone's trying to murder me. So yeah, sure, I'll do a wiggly wag version of this. Like, now it just takes out that uncertainty, which is good, I think, in principle. It's just, I think we know that there's going to be some potential repercussions here, and let's hope that referees are more on it. Which brings me to kind of the overall John Jones point, which is that fight with Matt Hamill did go on a little bit too long, some might say. I remember watching that in my early aspects before I was even covering things, and I just remembered thinking, while I watched it live, yeah, it's a bit too much. We can stop this, right? Oh my God, he's not going to stop this. Oh God, it's still happening. Please, God, please stop this. The only thing I would love to know is that I rewatched it and I'm still not clear if this was the case. I was never clear if John Jones was getting verbal warnings when this was happening and was just so in the zone he was doing it. And I don't know that I would have had that evidence a long time ago, but I think it's worth noting now in today's society. You can see somebody like John Jones getting told not to do something and still doing it anyway, and that making a lot more sense than it did back in like the late 2000s. Because to me, I'm like, yo, it's different if they call you on it and they say, hey, well, let's watch those hits, let's watch that. And I think if you're John Jones and you do it to excess to that sort of degree, that's the rule he was breaking at the time. So you're acting to retroactively go back to a time where there was a rule and a standard that was not upheld, and then saying like, you know what? We changed our minds. We didn't like that anymore. Well, at the time, that was the rule. So you kind of think, well, do you go back and revisit that just so that you can appease somebody's ego for a perfect score, which in reality is of very big importance to them because they won't fight a certain interim champion for whatever reason because of legacy. So then why does it matter? Then just literally, we all know you won the fight. Everybody who sees that fight knows you won that fight. There's not a person in MMA who looks at your record and goes, yep, that dude lost that fight. And that's why people have a problem with it. But instead, we need to expunge that part of it. When I'm like, bro, there's a lot more shit you should probably be concerned with expunging before you even get around to that.
Maybe they can put an asterisk on it. Just put an asterisk on it. We have been
putting an asterisk. It's been an asterisk. No, again, anybody who looks up that fight and goes like, I don't know that he was dominating it. It's like, no, the question was not dominating. It wasn't not winning. It's just homeboy went into his icy red phase, is about to concuss somebody to death. Referee probably should have acted faster. They didn't, so I could see that as an issue. You don't know how many warnings he was getting. And then as a result of it, you're like, hey, he did kind of do the wrong thing in that. Oh, well.
I don't remember how many elbows he got hit with. Do you guys remember? Was it like a bunch of elbows?
Let's put it this way. I rewatched it before we did this show today, and it's an uncomfortable amount of elbows. I don't know if you can quantify that as an actual number, but it was still to this day one where I was like, I'm doing other things and getting the board ready, and I'm typing things in, and I go, oh, okay, just keep my eyes on that. What did that look like? Oh, is that still going? All right, let's fix this. Let's put this photo out of order for fun. Oh shit, that's still going. Nope, my memory was right about this. Still remember how terrible it was. So there is that. And yes, a big nod to Baby Goose. Good stuff, Kevin. So shout out to you for being a good coach. I see a lot of Baby Goose stuff. And I guess, is there a quick version of knowing how he got the name? Because to me, I don't know if I'm a fighter. That's like the first one that comes out of somebody's brain. So like, how does one get the nickname Baby Goose?
There's no quick version. I mean, the quick version is we just gave it to him to make fun of him and like pick on him. He started his MMA career as like a 15, 16-year-old kid training in a gym with a bunch of mean fighters. And so we were just calling him Baby Goose for a little bit. And when he started looking for his first fight, his amateur debut, and he needed a name, he was taking suggestions, and people were throwing out all the cool ones, right? Like, I don't remember what they were, but like Destroyer, like whatever cool, hardcore, edgy names that MMA fighters go with. And the one that stuck was Baby Goose, because for the same reason, we all hear Baby Goose and it sticks around forever.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that's in the Shoeface region of still can't explain it. It just is a nickname that we go with. And I've seen him a few times and I try to wrap my head around it. I know he's a very good fighter, so I know at the very least it kind of goes there, but I cannot tell you the amount of times I see on your timeline or your Instagram stories, you sharing a Baby Goose thing and me being like, should I ask what this is about? Because I don't know if I get the opportunity, am I going to go further on it? And I had to take this opportunity, but congratulations to him. I know he just won a fight recently, so that's very good stuff to see. And very happy about that. Let's go to our next topic. And guys, this again, we always like to reserve a spot if possible where fight nonsense is happening. And yes, this week we did have one. I'll give you a quick little summarization as to what it is that happened, and then we'll go to the panel for some discussion on this. But let's just take a look at what this is. David versus Goliath, or as they spell it, Golat. And yes, there's a small dude who wants to prove to you that a single leg takedown can work if you switch it out and you survive a power bomb. Guess what? Just kidding. He's able to go ahead and take down the big boy here, or Goliath. And as he does, he's going to somehow not only open him up to pass, but to get this armbar and finish out here. And yes, he did ingest the red dyed hair of Chris Lieben in the early 2000s. And yet, I guess the question here is, Tim, who put this together and why did this happen?
I'm not sure where it was at. I think I read it was somewhere in South America. I'm not positive. But the idea was to basically have a little dude that has some grappling. The little dude looked like he had some MMA too, to be honest with you, and a big dude who they positioned as an MMA fighter, but that's questionable. I can tell you this: the big dude has never wrestled on a wall. He didn't know what the heck he was doing against that wall. Thank God that the little guy had the wall, because he used it to his advantage. I really liked I'm going to pick you up like a sack of wet laundry and throw you. And he just couldn't do it. It's like one time, two time. Okay, I'll just sit on my ass. That was the end of him. And the other thing that really popped out to me is the early UFC, circa 1993 with the Gracies all up on the cage wall. Look at all these guys like right up on the cage.
Hold up. Can we take a moment for the dude without a shirt? Why is that dude in the crowd without a shirt on? Did he just fight? He's next. Because there's nothing funnier than dude with glasses with his shirt out being like, nah, bro, I'm feeling this one right now. Because everybody else there is in good standing, and yet this powerbomb attempt, it's right there, and yet he doesn't take that up. Tim, that did upset me a little bit.
That's sad. That is sad. That was poor technique. And just a pro tip to you guys that wear glasses: you don't look cool when you take your shirt off and you have glasses on. It kind of kills it. You got to kill the glasses. You can't be shirtless guy with glasses. You just look drunk at that point. So he probably was both.
So anytime people have done the shirtless, whatever, if I don't have that on and I have to do this, I have one look, which is definitely this one, which is always like,
yeah, I got it.
Any other look is going to be weird to anybody else watching me. Like even this right now, I'm sure is people like that. I don't like
Let's do the whole show like this, Raph. We're just like,
I just tell people all the time, I'm like, yo, if especially even when I take off the glasses to roll and then they do the team photo, I'm always like, just overtly smile because you know what's coming. Yeah. You know that you're going to look like an idiot if you don't have it all perfectly situated. So I'm just always like, that way.
Glamour shot.
You go straight into it. But anyway, just food for thought. Kevin, what was your take on this? And where do you think Big Man could have gone a little bit better?
I think Big Man was out of his depth for sure. I think we're all aware of that. For those of you that were on high school wrestling teams, I need to know, I need to speak out into the ether and ask, did this also resonate deeply with the 125 pounder, the lightweight guy, 112, 130 pounder that gets into it with the football guy who just joined the wrestling team and doesn't know the score? And you get that little locker room fight or the little post practice, we're going to stick around after and throw hands. And you're looking at it and you see him go to take him down. And you go, oh man, that's crazy. I think I've seen that fight before. I think I've seen that fight about once a season, every season, my entire life. And I just need to know whether that's a universal experience for all of us or whether my wrestling team, high school wrestling team, was, problematic. You guys let me know.
Let me just point this out to you because I think lost in this melee, obviously it's a little bit of a circus show. Yes, but lost in all of this is my favorite moment, which is the dude who did lose, the Goliath, if you would, having this exhausted look. Like he has the look like you punched him out. You didn't tap him out here. Like that's the look of somebody who is just so depleted. And it made me think, like, did we have to get oxygen for this dude? Like I was legitimately concerned for that man. But yes, to your larger point here, Kev, I would say we've seen this in many different sports where you did pick on the wrong small guy and all of a sudden it goes from a Jackie Chan movie where I don't want any trouble, and then all of a sudden this dude's hit with a fucking ladder in his face and you go, oh, well, for not wanting any trouble, Jackie Chan sure did cause a lot of trouble here. I think he hit a lady too somewhere in the proceedings. But to this one, I just thought, Tim, thank you for submitting this our way because it did make me very excited. And we'll get some more comments later, but I did want to give you guys some context because guess what? I think Tim found this, or at least shared it with us on Twitter. And when you looked at it on Twitter, there was the readers added context to this just to make sure
so great
you guys were aware of what really happened. And it says, the Big Man is not an MMA fighter. He's a street fighter. Ooh. The point of this was to prove that a small guy with a lot of training can beat a tall guy with almost zero training in martial arts. It comes from a Spanish YouTuber's events called Dog Fight Wild. So
Dogfight Wild.
let me.
What's up with the wild on the end of it?
Hold on. Don't get ahead of me here, Tim.
Sorry.
Gents, before we move on to the gallery, I am indebted to asking both of you, is there a better name we can workshop rather than Dogfight Wild for this organization? Tim, you get first at bat here.
I am seeing in my mind's eye Baby Goose at Dogfight Wild. That's the fight that we got to figure out how to make one way or the other, dude. This has to happen. It's ordained by the Lord himself. Elio Gracie is just dropping this magic down on us, and we have to do it now. This is insanity. Dogfight Wild is so ridiculous. It's brilliant. It's a savant. A savant did this. That's all I can say. It's perfect. I don't want to mess it up. It's perfect.
Okay. I hear you. Kevin, do you have any notes for Dogfight Wild?
No. How do I top that? That's amazing. Dogfight Wild is perfect. I love that they're still booking fights to prove that a trained guy can beat up an untrained guy.
Oh shit!
Like, we're gonna have a spelling contest. This guy is illiterate. We found him. Yeah. We found him in the streets, and he's gonna go up against a Harvard scholar just to prove it can be done. Like,
okay,
what is happening?
Having said that, you bring up a very solid point, which is, sure, there's always a new generation of people that we have to prove this to. I'm sure there's always going to be a next generation that doesn't believe you that small man can beat up big man. Having said that, let's get to the core of what this is. People use that as an excuse, but what they really want to say is just, hey, listen, I want to see this small dude beat the shit out of somebody. I don't care who. Tell him it's for bullying. Yeah. Tell him it's for some random, he talked about his family. Nah, just really what it is. I want to see this big dude get owned. And that's really what it came down to. And billing him as a street fighter, maybe we don't have a lot of evidence here, but I would say this. If you bill somebody as a street fighter, let me put it into the requirement that I see said street fighting videos. Listen, Kimbo Slice didn't just appear on Bellator. They showed you his work. And then eventually they're like, hey, is that Jorge Masvidal? Like, we kind of bought into it and it was a thing. I would love to see the work of this man in said street fights. And it's just the same way that I feel like in boxing, whenever we say, oh, this boxer is going to take on this washed up or this old fighter or MMA guy. I think there needs to be a committee now in MMA. I've been saying this since day one. The committee has to elect a representative to represent MMA. If we had said committee, Ben Askren would have never been elected. And more importantly, Jake Paul would probably not be the guy he is. But instead, we have to deal with this all the time. And we have to wonder if a Jake Paul in all of his roided glory is going to beat up Mike Tyson. And I have to say this. That's a question I think we can go without answering because it doesn't make any sense. And yet people kind of want to see it. The boxing match with Jake Paul and, yes, Mike Perry sold a lot of tickets. And I don't know the full details, but it's over 12,000 tickets. So that means that a lot of really young people, or idiots, or both, got together and said, let me see that spectacle. And so that is why I want the committee. And if that's the case, I believe that committee would send me the videos before this ever made it to Dogfight Wild, which, by the way, sounds like a child made that name. Like, I'm not sure if you understand this, but those are like some of the first words you teach a child. And they, in all of their glory, were like, Dogfight Wild? Sounds like a great MMA organization. Good job here,
that
Junior.
promo photo. Yeah, that promo poster is in crayon for sure.
So, yes, I would just like to say that, you know, we do have a few more things. We're going to move to our gallery now because the gallery is attached to it. But Egghead Warrior, making it very clear, Dogfight Wild is awesome. Also, the reason why I think you need to workshop it, maybe a little bit, maybe this is just me. I feel like it can't deliver on the promise it's making. Like, you told me dog fights wild. I want to see that show. Like, I feel like that is a Homeward Bound-esque R-rated version where all of a sudden you can hear the thoughts of the dog, but they're like, fuck this, I want to fight. Like, I want to see John Wick's dog from the John Wick's dog perspective. Why is no one making that movie? Holy shit, I just made a lot of money right now. Trademark, RAF ESPARZA.
Good idea.
Wow, John Wick's new dog. It's from his perspective. Sorry, guys. All this jiu-jitsu thing, this is not making me money.
He just ends the stream right now. It's like, we're done.
Jesus. What's that? Netflix just got it? Oh, they bought it for me. Thank you. Okay, great. Well, let's go into these comments because I do feel like they tell a little bit more of the story. So yes, we will move to them, but it is essentially the same fight that we were looking at. And the comments here are as rich as you would imagine a fight like that was. So let's start with this one. And it says, this is why I think Zuckerberg will beat Elon. Let's stop here for a second. I don't know it anywhere in this 30 seconds of fight that we have enough evidence to believe that this concludes, yes, Zuck will beat Elon. Nonetheless, we press on. He's also younger and fitter. He seems like a timid fighter, though. And that's where Elon might have a chance.
Is this guy saying this based off the dogfight or based on this, like, these other fights they've imagined?
Does he think that guy is Elon?
Well, let's take a look at it just to make sure we're not making any mistakes here. Nope, definitely not Zuckerberg, and he definitely looks different now. Pretty sure this does not conclusively tell us what would happen in a Zuck versus Elon fight. And I'll ask you this, Kevin. Why are people so enamored with seeing those two people fight when they have no actual fighting acumen?
Zuckerberg and Elon, I think, are effectively like fictional characters to people. This is the equivalent of like telling me that Jaime Lannister would beat John Wick in a fight. Like, these are just names to people, and they're fans of their work or not fans of their work, right? Some of us all hate Facebook. Some people hate Teslas. The Cybertruck was maybe a bust to you. Maybe you love it. I think these are mascot fights. I think people are in love with the idea that Aubie, the Auburn Tiger, would beat up that weird tree that represents Maryland University. I think to them, there's a lot more abstract potential in these cartoon character humans that maybe exist. I've never personally met them. Seeing this and how it plays out, it's a lot more interesting than the known quantity of, say, somebody who actually knows how to fight.
Good Lord. I think that was a fair representation, which is now we'll move on. And it says, John Jones has found his next opponent after Stipe.
Yeah, but you can't do 12-6 elbows and dogfight wild. That's not for another 20 years. They're not going to be there. It's going to take like 20 years for him to get there. So we might not see that.
Let's go to our next comment, which is, toughest dude I fought was Mexican, standing 5'3". So,
Strong endorsement.
Let me ask you this, Tim. How did you find one person on the internet who was just like, you know what? I really got to say something about Mexicans right now. I feel like this is the time, right?
Yeah, you know, it's like nobody wants the big guy to win. Big guys don't even want the big guy to win. Everyone's rooting against the big guy. Everyone's going for the little guy. But none of the little guys really want to admit they're little guys. And then guys that have been whooped by little guys don't want to admit they've been whooped by little guys. But this dude was kind of proud of it. Like, hey, listen to me as a person who's had his ass whooped by a 5'3" Mexican. Like, these little guys are tough. That's kind of the shtick he pulled. I don't know. It's kind of funny. The comment thread on, there were so many good ones that I needed them, and I'm like, I'm just taking the first 5 that are good. But there were some really good ones. People had a bunch of pictures and all kinds of wild stuff. So it was pretty good fodder for the internet.
I do want to bring this up. Aside from the assembly of blue check marks that you sent us, which God bless. The fact that this dude didn't actually say he lost to the 5'3" dude. Like, he wanted to make sure you knew. That dude was tough, but still pulled this one out. Fuck those Mexicans. Just kind of interesting to see here. An egghead. So hold on. I do appreciate this. That it says, this dude looks like he's going to call you and scam you. Which, hey, listen, don't mock it till you try it, 80cc winners.
Got a new crypto coin.
And it says 5'3", tough to fight because you can't see him. You have to keep looking down. Well, listen, guys, not all of us are blessed to be over 6 feet tall. So just keep that in mind as you put things in perpetuity in the comment section. Oh, God, no. Come on. All right.
Check it out. Read the comment.
I'll read it. It's just anytime I see something with this that writes this declarative about anything, my brain takes a shock, like a static shock of, all right, somebody wrote this. Here we go.
Got the check, too.
This is why MMA is not real fighting. They don't allow for defensive moves against grappling that would occur in a street fight. You can't knee of elbow a grappler, which is the first line of defense in a street fight if you're being grabbed. Well, let's start here. Kevin, was this not a street fighter? And is this man making the argument that they took him too far out of the element of street fighting for him to have a chance here properly?
Yeah, I think he's aware of what we all are, which is that if you are not on pavement, you can't actually see red. It doesn't click in because your life isn't on the line. So you don't actually get to activate your see red mode where bodies start dropping. This was an unfair contest from the start, and I reject the premise. I reject the conclusion. I reject the premise.
So wait a minute. Are you calling this now an invalid result? Are you now calling for the same thing that happened to John Jones? Should this man contest his result and get his blemish off his record now?
I think he needs to appeal it. I think he needs to appeal it and move to what I assume is 77-0. Never lost a street fight.
Yeah. Takedowns are illegal in a street fight anyway. The fact that the guy used a single leg, that's a glaring. What is a knee of elbow? Is the controversial knee of elbow.
Everybody knows knee of elbow. First of all, Tim, it's where
I've actually never heard of this.
First of all,
school me, guys. Yes.
Listen, I hate the fact that I have to educate 2 black belts here, and this is upsetting to me. But knee of elbow. Okay, everybody knows. It's where you hit somebody so hard with your elbow, it felt like you just got kneed in the face. It's a routine thing to forget or not know for sure. It's considered very deadly, thus the contestant of that result.
We don't know it because we don't do real fighting.
You don't. And listen, guys, if anybody on this show does real fighting, we obviously know it's me because, listen, I am speaking from the streets. Tim, you hear the streets. I fight from the streets. Very strange, very different. And when you see somebody like James, I'm so glad that we can, hold on, let me blow this up because I want to talk about somebody who's been in as many street fights as I have been. But James, thank you for bringing this up because you're from Dillon Ranch, I can assume, and I know that's a tough place to be. But you, clearly from that photo, from the streets, you know what it's like. And one thing people hate in fights is defense. Boo. Everybody hates defensive moves. So you know what? They didn't look out for the guy who was coming from the streets to be able to properly do one of these and make his way into the succession of a win column. Let me just clean this up here real quick. Guys, I'm going to take my earpiece out for that one. I'm so confused by one thing. So just so we're aware, in a few weeks when we gather again, our little brain trust here live and in person in Vegas, in order for people to see us on Twitter, I have to become a blue check mark. And I'm very afraid that what happens when I become a blue check mark is I make absurd statements like that. So I'm asking you, because yes, Tim, every single statement you brought was from a blue check mark. So now I'm worried, do I clean up my act when I become a blue check mark for Grappling Hour so that people can see us for our ADCC Craig Jones week? Or do I double down and just go into the abyss, go into the crazy Kevess here and go absolutely batshit insane while I'm a blue check mark for a month and a half? I start with you, Kevin.
I think it is very endearing that you believe you have a choice and that the blue check mark won't take you exactly where, like, it chose you. You think you chose it. It chose you. And now it is your identity. You're going to start wearing sunglasses inside. You're going to start talking about bodies dropping in the street fights you've been in. And you're going to start voting differently. You're going to start going to bars you never went to. It's going to get crazy. And this is a ride that, you know, you've signed up for. And it ends in one place is the good news. Valhalla. That's where you're headed.
Tim, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think for sure you double down, man. Once you get the check mark, you're verified, dog. Like, you're good to go. You're basically, it's like you've had your vasectomy, man. You could rock, dude. You're ready to go. So you may as well go out there and spread your love on X, dude. Do what you got to do, dog. Like, we got to put that stream out. We got to spread the word. We got to get the gospel of the bullpen rocking and rolling. So let's go, brother.
It's one thing when you said you just got to embrace it. You got to spread yourself out and that stream's got to go out. And I just was like, you know what? That visual, not quite what I was going in there, but it did say sunglasses inside. God. Only if you studied nuclear science. I feel like we're comparing two different worlds here, but I can promise you this. For the month and change that I have to have this dumb check mark, and I haven't figured out when I'm going to start doing it. I feel like I should do it now just to rip off the Band-Aid and make sure it actually works. And for the next 2 weeks, when we do these episodes of the Bullpen, they will have these things. Having said that, can I just be honest? I don't want to. Like, I don't want it. Like, I'm so anti this. And I'm so angry that in order to be seen on Twitter, I have to fucking do this. But one good thing, I can actually write longer posts. That's the one thing. And you can edit posts. But like paying for it, hurts the soul. So, all right, gents, I think it's time to close up right now. Let's go ahead and plug our stuff. I'm going to start on over this way. Where can the people find you, good sir? Kevin, tell us where the people can find you.
Kevin Grapples on Instagram. Yep. Kevin Grapples on Instagram. I'm building a YouTube page for Not Bad Combat. And if you're in the Atlanta area, come by American Top Team Limo. Come roll with us.
Great stuff. Tim, plug your shit.
You can find me at Inside BJJ on all your favorite social media. Check us out on YouTube /Inside BJJ. I need some subscribers so I can start making some money off this content. So please subscribe. We got Dean Lister coming up tomorrow on the program. And if you're out at Karate Combat tomorrow night in Nashville, I'll be wearing this hat because I don't have hair. So come by and say what's up. We'll exchange information and I'll make you subscribe to the Bullpen and to grapple to everything. Like everything we got, I'm just going to grab your phone and subscribe to it, like it. So yeah, choice. Catch me there, man.
Yeah. I've recently subscribed to the idea that when I roll with people, I'm not going to let go of the submission until I know for sure they've subscribed. Like I'm going to have somebody bring their phone over and be like, nope, with your free arm, subscribe. And like,
don't even roll with them yet. Yeah.
Gentlemen, I'm very excited for what's coming up in a few weeks. We are 3 weeks away now. So this is your team. Yep. This is what is going to be reporting. I'm very excited. It's going to be a great ability to collaborate between all three of us. And I really do feel like we're going to put together a very fun show. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing you guys very soon. I'll close this bitch up and then I'll talk to you guys in a second. But my thanks, Tim, Kevin, good work this week, sirs. All right, guys, here's what we're going to do. Reminders, like, comment, and subscribe. Tim just told you he doesn't have enough people to make money off of fucking YouTube. Do you know how long Tim's been doing this? Fuck you guys. Go subscribe to him right now. So go on over inside BJJ, like, comment, subscribe. And I know some of you are watching this off of that channel. That's dope. I see some of you in the comment section. So do me a solid, give us some love, talk to us there, but also support our guy. So that way, the little money that we do make from jiu-jitsu can be doubled. I think anything times 0 is still 0, last I checked. But hey, something, I think. Let's get to the reminders. We will be back here next week on Wednesday, so be looking out for us. We are excited to have you guys joining us for a little journey here. We will have more information as we get closer for the details for our broadcast that we'll be doing. But I hope that you guys come support us. Tell a friend. We're going to start announcing it on our social media very soon, but we're very stoked to be recording live some broadcasts out in Vegas. It's going to be a fun time. Vegas is like a second home to me, so it's going to be good to be at my second home. Ladies and gents, that's going to do it for us here at the Bullpen. It has been a great day for grappling. We'll see you back on the mats.